Film fans of YouTube, hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Josh, your movie apprentice, and today I am looking at Gran Turismo, based on the sim racing video game that took the world by storm, and also a true story, as the trailers are heavily telling you every single time a promotion or poster for this movie comes out. This follows the true story of Jean Mardenborough, who is a real life racer that was a hardcore Gran Turismo player that is given the chance, alongside 9 other hopefuls, to race in professional racing thanks to a competition set up by OrlandoBloom's Danny Moore and led by David Harbour's Jack Slater. Before I get into my review, if you do like what you're seeing on the channel, make sure you're clicking that like button and subscribe for more movie reviews like this coming all the time, and all being good, might have a video essay or two coming up shortly as well. But without further ado, let's review this. So, I will say this straight away, there are two sides of me when it comes to watching movies. There is the movie critical side of me that analyzes the movie from plot, characterizations, motivation, CG, all the technical stuff, and the deeper stuff that I go to when it comes to the film as a whole. But there's also another side of me that wants to be catered to and wants to basically just have a good time at the movies, no matter how dumb the movie is. And with Gran Turismo, if I was grading it purely on its technical aspects in terms of its plot and its characters and the story beats that take place with this, as well as the pacing, then it would be a 3-star movie at best. But like Super Mario Brothers before it, this film wins a lot of brownie points for me because it is well and truly a love letter to racing fans. The sequences in this are absolutely outstanding once we get in the cars and out onto the track. It explains the psychological element as well as a tactical element of racing that you hardly ever see. We've obviously had films like Rush and Ford v Ferrari, and those ones very much focused on the drivers behind the wheel of them cars, and while there are some technical aspects led into it, there was never an outright discussion in terms of weather patterns or taking a line correctly or the outright dangers of some of these races. Obviously the danger of motor racing is always there, but this one very much focuses on just the physical challenges that any race car driver goes through. As David Harbour says, anyone jumps to these cars, they are likely to be torn to pieces just with the G-forces alone that these drivers have to contend with, not even counting in how split second their reactions have to be when it comes to overtaking or taking a corner, the absolute bravery and balls you have to go past another car that wants nothing more than to be ahead of you come the checker flag. That works really well in this movie, and seeing some truly iconic tracks on here, I was already set up for this movie when I saw the Red Bull Ring prioritized in the trailer. But circuits we get in this include obviously Barcelona, we have the Istanbul circuit briefly mentioned, we have the Le Mans circuit, and we have the infamous Nordschleife. To any non-racing fan, the film does its job of explaining the dangers of this circuit, but as a racing fan, the moment you see the graffiti on that track, you know exactly where you are, and it is glorious to see it on screen. And rounding up my positives for the movie as well, I will say that David Harbour brings an energy to this. That man never thumbs it in when it comes to his movies. He always gives 110%. Even in the bad movies he's in, he gives it his all. And Jimon Honso, he is really good as John's dad in this. He doesn't get a lot of screen time, but you can tell he is excited to be given a role that he can sink his teeth into just a little bit. And while it's stereotypical, he is really captivating, and I did buy the relationship between him and John when it came to the father-son dynamic. However, this film has a lot of mid elements to it. I will say the pacing is a big thing that the film does struggle with. The whole advert prioritizes the training this nerdy kid to be a race car driver and the process through it. And the training sequence takes up probably the first half of the movie. And I would say that in terms of video game adaptations, while it is definitely a valid adaptation of the video game right down to the graphics on screen, that can be a bit jarring and a bit annoying at times, especially when you see it freeze frame and a position marker pop up over the car at least 3 times in a minute. That can get a little repetitive and a little bit annoying. As someone that only has seen gameplay of the game and never played it himself personally, it seems that they've transferred the visuals from the game into the film very well and very perfectly. When it came to the training section of the movie, I feel like there was a lot more that had potential there. You could have easily split this movie into 2 10-episode HBO Max seasons, with the first season following the people that became part of this program trying to achieve that seat, in order to develop a lot of the drivers more, because obviously we know Jean is going to be the one that succeeds in getting that race seat. There is next to no development on the other drivers. There's literally, here is a couple that he chats to briefly, and here is someone that's clearly supposed to be set up as a rival that is never truly fleshed out on. And that's a shame, because the other 9 hopefuls, they had these dreams too, and it would be nice to see the relationship between these people develop as rivals, but also race car drivers. There is a level of respect and adoration and admiration that comes between race car drivers that you will see in interviews. I'm a big F1 fan myself personally, so seeing that part of the culture of race car drivers lacking was a bit of a downer for me. And the way that that aspect of the movie comes full circle towards the end doesn't feel as impactful, purely because we hardly have any time to develop these characters. They really rush through the whole getting a gamer out of the simulator into these actual race cars and actually being pretty damn decent at it. This is a film that is based on a true story in name only. A lot of events in this, while a few things definitely did happen, there are characters in this that didn't exist in real life outside the main character, and it feels like pace-wise we do rush a lot of things. We've got to incorporate the father-son tension. We've got to incorporate a romantic interest. We've got to incorporate him getting off the simulator, winning that place on the academy, getting into the academy, winning that academy. It's a lot that's rushed through in that first half. And then we get to the second half of the movie. It's very repetitive in the obstacles that come in this way. There are 2 drivers that constantly show up, that no matter what series he is racing in, they are always showing up and being an obstacle for him in one way or another. And it gets very tedious and very boring very, very quickly. OrlandoBloom is fun, seeing him being this sort of cool marketing dad kind of character. You can tell he's just kind of there. He's not giving nearly as much energy as David Harbour is in this, which is a shame. The film definitely does pick up in that second half, and when we get into more race sequences and see some of the impacts of what racing can be and how dangerous it can be, it works really well. And like I said, the racing sequences are top notch. If you're coming for the racing sequences, they deliver to no end, and make me kind of want to get a bit more into motorsport outside of my F1 and IndyCar knowledge. That is all I really follow. I don't follow the closed seater cars or NASCAR or anything like that. So that film does market itself to me quite well, but unfortunately, just story-wise and plot-wise, it packs in so much and delivers on very little. The whole dynamic between Jean and Jack is well done and really well played out, and I like that Archie and David played well off each other, and it was a nice element to the movie. But again, there's just something about this movie that doesn't quite hit the mark when it comes to narrative structure, pacing, and plot and characterizations. Some plot threads come full circle and feel earned, and others just feel lackluster in the finale. It's a good movie. It's a fun time at the movies if you're a racing fan, and those that didn't believe this was a real story. It is a real story, but it's very much a Hollywoodized version of the true story. Rush was slightly Hollywoodized. This one takes the Hollywoodization of what actually happened to what they show in this movie. I would say maybe 20% of what you see is the real events, and 80% is embellished and inflated for the purposes of Hollywood storytelling, which can work for some. If those are that are picky about it, you might not enjoy it. For me, I don't know a whole lot about the history outside of reading a little news article about it. So for me, I didn't mind it so much, but I could have done with a bit more better pacing when it came to the film's narrative structure and plot. Before I get into my grade, you made it this far, drop that like button if you haven't done so far. Let me know what is your favourite racing movie out there. My personal favourite is Rush, but I'm curious to see what yours is as well. But as for the grade, Gran Turismo succeeds in three things: the racing sequences, the love letter to motorsports fans, and the outright great performances by David Harbour and Archie Madekwe. This is a fun movie, it's a good time, but as a film purist, you will be disappointed in various elements of this movie, and it is quite messy. It's not Neill Blomkamp's best, but it is definitely not his worst either. It's a very middle-of-the-road movie, but to the motorsports fans out there, it is definitely worth your time, and it does bump up the rating to me quite a bit. So despite a lot of my negatives, because of the love letter to motorsport in general, it bumps up the grade considerably for me. I'm going to have to say that Gran Turismo is a good cup of tea. So Gran Turismo, have you seen it? Let me know what you thought down in the comments below. Not sure what's coming up on the channel next. It'll probably be Haunted Mansion, but we will be seeing about that. Another Blackening is coming out in a couple of weeks as well, so stay tuned for that one also. But until next time, my name is Josh, I've been your Movie Apprentice, and I'll see you all in the next video.